So, and we're going to spend not an hour, but maybe 40 minutes together here talking about this. And we also want questions from the audience. I know quite a few of you have been to see the performance today. So. And I also know there are some who have directed the same play in other parts of the world, and I might want to ask you some questions as well. So be prepared, Henning and Damien, for some questions from the stage. Okay, Fredrik, how many times have this been performed now, do you think?
Well, it is 5 productions, and it's also been quite many like stage readings of this play.
So why do you think this is the case? I mean, not every play is so widely read, done, performed.
Well, it's hard to say. It could be something about that the feeling of tricking the audience in a way, because of people they think they are part of a tragedy, and so that they get very depressed at the beginning. It's very dark in the beginning, and then it turns out with very much humor, and they feel that it's very unpredictable. So it changes the genre in a certain way, and I think that is a part of it. And also, I'm a composer, and I very much use musical structure in my plays. And one musical structure that is used, for example, in Bolero by Maurice Ravel, and in Kjempevidslotten, Harald Sæverud piece, and also in Shostakovich's 7th Symphony. It uses one kind of composition, that is that you have one theme that you just repeat, and you start very simple, just perhaps one instrument playing this melody, and then the same melody is played one more time with more instruments, and a third time with even more instruments, and you just keep holding on to the same melody, but you just gain instruments, and at the end it's the same melody, and it's played very, very fortissimo with the whole orchestra. And this way of making a musical composition is like a success story within music, because of Ravel's most famous piece is built up like this. Shostakovich's most famous piece is built up like this, and Harald Sæverud's most famous piece is built up like this. So it makes does something to you. And this same structure has also the returning, because it is the same melody that he dies and he comes back, and that keeps repeating. But it also it adds to more and more instruments, so it changes, and it grows, and it builds up gradually, like Bolero.
How many of you have seen the returning now, Anna? Yeah, so just a few hasn't seen it. Some are going to see it tomorrow. I don't think we should tell the whole story or make this so understood because we've seen it, that the people who haven't seen it are not able to follow us. I think we should try and find sort of middle ground.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Yeah? So we know something about the composition now, both interesting for the ones who have seen it and interesting for those who haven't seen it, I think. It doesn't spoil anything to know this about the composition. It's just going to make it interesting. We can also say that it's sort of, we're going to return to you, or come to you very quickly now, because we're going to talk about the place it's played in. The place it's played in is a flat, and that's also the setting of the play. So there's no sort of, Jean-Christophe has not moved the setting to from a train station to a skyscraper, let's say. No, you're doing a performance in the place that you suggest in your play. And it's about a family. And in your direction, it's also a family home. You know, it's in somebody's home. And we meet. Can we tell them who we meet? That's okay. Mother, father.
Yes.
And after a while,
their
son.
Son, who's about 16 to 18 years old, around there. So.
Yeah. And we can say it's quite a happy family.
Happy?
Yeah. Is it a happy family?
Well, it changes back and forth, actually. So it is.
At the beginning, the first scene.
It's the first scene is
Yeah.
very, not a very happy family, no.
Yeah.
No.
Normal and unhappy Norwegian family.
Yes, well, on the normal in that way that they are grieving the loss of their son.
Exactly. That's
But
the point.
but beside of that, it's a typical normal family. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, since the title is returning, we can say that the lost son returns, and then that's the topic of the play in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah, the returning of the son. Okay. Nice. So, Jean-Christophe, what made you want to do this?
What's the question? Sorry.
What made you want to do this play?
Well, I wanted to. I'm always want to discover real new voices in scripts. So, well, there is different things which moves me when I decide to make me decide in creating a play. It's a huge word, so you have to choose well. Well, some plays are very well known, but I have the feeling that there is a way to go inside them, which I have to discover. Basically, a play doesn't interest me if I understand it. So working on it is a way to feel it, to discover it. It's a little bit like a living animal or dead animal. You want to understand how did he live, what was his behavior. And so when I discovered this play, you speak about structure, you speak about you analyze it, but the strong thing of this play is very short, but it takes a lot of time to analyze it. There is so many things to discover in it. And so it becomes lively because there is a global structure which is very clever, but you talked about it. It's also musical question, the very microstructure of each dialogue, which is very clever and always surprising. And it could be a kind of clever joke, but the topics also are deep and were deeper and deeper while we were reading them. Of course, we had a lot of fun doing it, that's for sure. We laugh a lot. But we were not laughing just for laughing. It was not, to speak like going from tragedy to comedy. I think to me, the point when I started, because the question is why, I just didn't know if it was from tragedy to comedy. And when we began to work, we finally just didn't care. I think our way to enter this was to open all the doors, and so many doors to let open. And if people laugh and don't laugh, we just don't care. If you begin to create an effect on this play, you close some doors.
Yeah.
And the reaction of the audience, well, first I did a reading, just to try, before being involved into creating a play. And during this reading, I heard so many different reactions of the audience, and so personal ones. So that confirmed me that there was something interesting to create, which was giving a form. I don't know if form in English is good.
Form in English is perfect.
Giving an object which let every intimacy entering his own way. So of course we have analyzed a lot of things with a lot of pleasure, but we have tried not to give one thing. It's difficult to take more things because we should speak about the story.
Yeah, well, I think it's very interesting what you say, that actually it is a very open text, and I've seen 3 performances of it now, and I think that each have, just through the acting style or the approach of it, tells me a different, not a different story, but gives me a different content and a different feeling. I don't know if you feel that, FREDRIK, that it sort of changes from performance to performance. It stays the same, but it's something else.
Yes, it's been very different performances. Yes, so it has said the different things every time.
We'll talk a little bit about that later, because I think it's also interesting to talk to Henning and Damien about that, since you're here. But this is a special performance. There's a way of seeing theatre that we don't experience a lot. Usually we do this in some kind of extent. We sit you know, the actors sit on the stage, and you in the audience, you sit and watch us, and everything is sort of the way it should be. And afterwards, we have a coffee, and that's that. But you have actually chosen to take this play into a flat, into a living space for real people. Why did you do that?
I will try to answer without telling the story, but in this play, one thing is that it's fantasy. Is it possible to say this? Fantastic? Fantasy? Something, not fantasy, no. Like Edgar Poe, you know, something which could be, which could happen very close to real life, but which goes to a different direction than real life. So it's something which is true and impossible. You know this kind of literature, I don't know the English word. In French it's fantastic. And so if, the idea was that first, the flat was one of the actors of this play, and also one of the characters, and also one of the characters of other FREDRIK's plays. So I was interested to use a real one, and to enter into a reality to feel more these impossible facts. Also, there is, sorry, I tell things, but there is direct, it's a mix between classical theater with actors playing a scene and dialogue with the audience. So, of course, it's possible in the theater, but when we began to think about this, we found more and more reasons. And so we kept going, working, and we began to ask a question we didn't ask at the beginning. So, for example, who are you? Who is the audience? If we play in a flat, we need to answer to this question. Well, maybe you don't care when you see the place, but there was more and more reason in each rehearsal to make this play also intimate feeling, because it's really deep topics. So it's very strong to be close to the actors for this. I don't know if it's specific reason. All what I say could work on stage, and I think
Definitely.
the stage can
We've seen
really
it.
work on stage. There is one reason also, is that the place is very short. It's difficult to create a place for a theater, which is 45 minutes. So the idea is to play this play for few audience, but 2 or 3 times a day, which creates a possible production of it.
So it's a practical reason as
There
well.
is tons of reasons. And also what you said, that we couldn't give the, it's all mixed together.
Yeah.
Well, working on a stage costs a lot, so it's a very small production too.
Yeah, go ahead.
One part of the audience, that of course if you invite us into a real flat of someone probably living there with the furniture and everything like we saw it today, then it creates even more this idea of getting very close and intimately to people you don't know yet, but it's a realistic surrounding, and then you have the absorbed development of the story, and this created a special effect on me especially. And I like that a lot, because the story is not a realistic one, but you are in a flat with a very realistic surrounding, and so it created a special effect.
And of course, then you have the chance situation. I mean, the thing that reality actually can break into the play. Today, for instance, you turn on the dog, opening the window, somebody talking about the dog, and there was actually a dog barking.
Ah, sorry, it was an actor.
Yeah. It was FREDRIK out there, yeah. It was Bruno from yesterday. No, but for us, it gave something very special. And also, you know, when the actors turn on the television, and you don't really know what's going to be going on there. There could be something that really adds to the play. There's a little play of chance in there as well, isn't there, when you choose a real space?
I really enjoy when in a play, even in a theater, actors can spend the time to listen to what's happening around. And when you play in a flat, you hear the car passing, and this creates, there is a lot, it's very musical, so there is a lot of possibility of silences, beautiful silences in this play. So silence in a flat is beautiful. You are really in the center of life. Silence in a theater, most of the time it's an artificial silence.
Yeah.
So for musical reason also, it's interesting to play in a real flat. Maybe the machines around the coffee machine do things like this. Things happen for real. People walking on the all these things create difficult to realize all this for in a theater, and always it will be a different effect, recreate the reality. But to answer to keep talking about what you were speaking about, the situation is absolutely non-real, but they live this situation for real. That's why it's so interesting.
You've seen the performance in France as well?
Yes.
In another flat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it a big difference?
No, not remarkably.
The same sort of feeling of class, and because this, you know, you're going to see it tomorrow, the flat. I'm not going to tell you a lot about it, but it's quite a grand flat in my standard. There's a huge gilded mirror there, and wonderful old clock, and huge fireplace. And was it the same kind of space in France?
Well, in France it was, of course, I felt very like fantastic romantically going to France and see this play in this very, very beautiful, like a pensionate, you say, pensionat. And that was with a big garden. It was a very, very, very beautiful place in France, though. It was beautiful up here as well, but it was not yes, it was very, very beautiful.
So to see it in another kind of flat, to see it like in a bed sit or, you know, housing estate in Birmingham, or it would change the whole feeling, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would, definitely.
I just want to, Henning, are you here? Yeah? And Damien, you're both, just raise your hands, we can see you. That's Damien who did the performance in York, and then Henning who did it in New York, so, and you're both dressed in white, so that's nice. None of you did it for a sort of on-site thing, you both did it for the stage, right? And Damon, you did a staged reading, I would call it. How long did you work on it for? Yeah, 2 days. A quick process.
Yeah.
And Henning, how did you do it?
We did it first as a staged reading, which Felder came over for, and then we decided to mount it as a full production last November as a part of the Norway Plays Festival.
Right. And then you actually had a 4-week or 5-week rehearsal?
Yeah, we had a shortened rehearsal period, sadly. You think that a 45-minute piece is going to be, oh yeah, I know that, but it's a deceptively tricky play to work on, and especially with getting tone right and getting these relationships, because, like you say, it starts as a tragedy, and I even find the tragic start very funny, but trying to unlock these relationships and the way it transforms over time was surprisingly complex and difficult.
Yeah.
So we had a 2.5, 3-week rehearsal process.
Yeah. And then, of course, the days previously, when FREDRIK came to see the reading, you had that sort of work done before.
Then we had, we under equity rules, we're allowed to use 16 hours of, or 12 hours of rehearsals for a reading. So we divide that over 3 days.
And did you set it in Norway?
No.
No. So you changed, where did you set it?
We said that, in fact, the food was completely changed. I translated it as well, and I was thinking, who on earth in the US would know what a fenalår is? You know, at first I put like cured lamb's leg, and I was like, that just does not make sense. So you know, part of this, I think, is to be able to make it your own. You can change it to Yorkshire pudding if you want to do that, or whatever you know, is there. But yes, we kept it immediate. I think it's very easy to do that.
Yes.
It's also important to say that Henning is the one who's done the translation to English, so the text that you can read in the program when it comes to the performance, or you have been there already know that you get the program with an English text, and that's Henning's translation. I think he's done a very, very good job with that. David, do you want to say something about your approach?
Well, I suppose I think what's interesting is when you put it into a house, and as you were saying, if you did it on an estate in Birmingham, it would change it. But I think the thing that it would change is the language that the people would use would be different. It would have to be, because they'd be Brummies speaking in a Birmingham accent. But also there would be a difference in the way they dress, and the whole thing would have a different. But what would be interesting would be the notion that the space in a way dictates a big part of the characters, because that's the one thing that you've got that is absolutely fixed. When you're in spaces, they are fixed. We're given. It was interesting today. I was looking at some of the things that were in the room and thinking about how we related to those characters that were in the room. And it would be interesting to have, I mean, I don't know how much time you had in that room before you started as actors to live the room and work out your relationship to it. But I think that it would be a really interesting project to have a lot of time in a space so that the way in which a character uses it is defined by how the space makes them, like we are in our own homes, in that sense. The familiarity of the routes, the paths you take through space, the way you reach the things, you move things around about. The space would dictate that to the actor rather than a designer dictate it in terms of how the space works, how it looks, the class of the space, the nature of the people in it. And I think that's a really interesting thing that it opens up, is that notion that all the signals and all that you take from the space that's given to you. And even going into somebody's wardrobe and having a look to see what kind of clothes do the people in this house wear, and what would that, how does that fit, and how does it meld itself into a story which is truly a universal story. And that's what's so great about it, is that the story, I think, will move into and fill any space that you take it to, because it is such a recognisable, however fantastic it is in so many ways, it is so recognisable. And it makes you think. I've thought so many different things today watching it than I had done before, which was just lovely. And it's just such a nice thing to have that relationship with something that's got space in it for the imagination to work, which is just, it's lovely. It's a great piece.
I agree. There's variation on the food as well, isn't there? I mean, when you see the text and you read it afterwards, because you should do that, the text as well in the program, because it's quite a strong feeling to be in that space. It's nice to have space for the text as well. Your variation on this theme is not only variations on language, it's also variation on objects, isn't it?
Yes. Can
you say something about that?
Well, the objects that the first time he comes, they serve him the best food in the world, the best food that they have, and it comes down to just give him bread. That is the only thing they have from having a fancy dinner, to giving him bread, and then to end up denying him the potatoes. So
there's also a small motorbike in the yard.
Yes. That doesn't change much, but the relationship between the father and the son is just have something that they do together, really.
May I ask you a personal question, Fredrik?
It depends.
It does nothing.
What
have
it
nothing.
is.
Yesterday we made a joke. I said I really want to see this flat so I can make a dramaturgy from this conversation according to the rooms that we would be in. We ended up just being in one room, so I couldn't really use that for much. But Fredrik immediately chose the shower, that he would sort of start in the shower room. So we were joking about we're just starting this whole conversation with him having a shower on stage. Well, we can't do that now.
No, sadly.
Next time.
But I have to say something about the production that I really liked so much, this production of Jean-Christophe and this great actors doing this. And what I also enjoy so much about putting this in a flat, making it hyper realistic, and in some ways that this play is surrealistic, but very much of the play is also just based on what is going on around the kitchen table, and it's about making food, serving food, it's about eating food, and all the things is really how do they give, how do the parents feed their child, and it's very like everyday situations. And also we have this very surrealistic big thing that he's coming back from the dead. It's a big contrast So it is very good to take this very normal day life kind of situation. It gets more normal day life situation, and that is a big contrast to the surrealism. And I really enjoyed that very much. I think it's a very clever way of doing it.
Do you want to comment on that?
Thank you. And to me, there is not 2 levels on the daily life which would be under. That's what it's not what you said, of course. But it's important for me to precise that the daily life is not under the surrealistic event, which would be bigger. But eating food is a symbol. So to touch us, it has to be very concrete. That's why it's important to have real food and to really eat it. Because it speaks, when it's very concrete, suddenly the symbol appears. It really speaks about death and life, which is the subject. The food is not, well, there is good and bad food maybe, but the food is mainly meat. So we speak about a dead body, and we eat meat, and there is something, and as you say, the meat goes inside the actors for real, and we can feel maybe, when I was speaking for silence, I don't know if everybody sees that, but I'm interested about this. We feel, as we feel the silence, we feel the space around. But as we see actors eating and talking while eating, and finally, for example, haven't finished eating and they have to talk, so they say very important things with lots of things in, and all these things speaks about organic life, and so about the fact that we will die, and so it's not different levels. It's the materiality of the food is a great idea to speak about death and bodies. Like Francis Bacon play with the opened bodies and the meat inside. It's very touching.
Anybody? Yeah.
I have a question. As much as I like, I recently read the making book of Living and Dying. He often says that in the Western world, our world, death is either dramatized or
turned into banality.
yes. And this is what happens in this play. It starts with a drama, with the parents who can't cope with the death, and it ends up eating chips, switching on TV and saying, "This disappeared." So in this case, your play is absolutely supporting the statement of the author. It was my impression, but I was just, when I left the lab, I was thinking, how to deal with that. Maybe it's not, it's the wrong expectation to expect it's not from here the play. But in between this dramatizing death and, So I choose the worst case, the death of a child, and the last just disappears.
But what disappearing?
Does it mean that he's not there, or does it mean that he's here but not visible? Disappearing means the two, I think. I don't know if in Norwegian it's the same, but in French it's clear. Disappearing, you can go away, but you can also be there and invisible.
And now I have to apologize for the people who are going to see the play tomorrow, who have given away the ending.
Sorry. Well,
but we'll forgive you for that.
If you don't understand French, it's also very good to read the play. My point of view, really, to enjoy the play.
But
before.
it is a very vital. That was actually the personal question I was going to ask you. It had nothing to do with show.
No.
It is because it is every time I see this play and read it, I get a different feeling. The first time I got the same feeling that Jørn had, that it sort of turns death into banality. The ability of human beings to just sort of cope with things to a certain extent. If a bad thing is repeated many times, so many times that you sort of accept it, then you sort of it becomes normal, and you prefer person being died from actually returning. It's more pleasant that it's gone, because at least then it's gone, and it keeps on coming back. So that was the first experience I had. Then when I saw it in New York, I had a completely another experience. I will not go into that because my interpretation is not that interesting. And I also know that that you said when you saw it in New York that you felt it was a very funny the funny side of it.
Yes, and this was a bit darker version than than it was in New York. It was more a lighter version. So I think it can be done successfully both ways.
And then when I saw it this morning, I felt maybe it's not a story about the parents losing a child. Maybe it's a story about the son not being able to let go.
Of course.
Maybe it's not about returning. Maybe it's about not being able to leave. Maybe this
Yes.
is. Yeah. And
Yes.
so my personal question to you is: how central is this question of death in the piece for you? Is it like a more formal exercise, or is it a deep existential thing for you?
Well, it is hard to say, because when I wrote it, I just came up with the idea and I didn't analyze it very much. I just had this feeling that I wanted to put down on the paper. And now I've seen so many different reactions to it, so I don't really know what I really felt when I wrote it in a certain way. But I think that it is the death part of it. It can be about the death, but it can also be about just something else. It is for example, you can say it is just about time that Gustav really leaves home, and it could be about parents' love for the children, and for example, the relationship between parents and children has changed very much the last 50, 100 years. For 100 years ago, my grandfather, he was out sailing the world on a ship working when he was 15 years old, and he didn't see his parents for like 3 years. And now, if you have a child, you will be the child's parents, even when the child is like 30 years old or 40 years old. You will still give them money, or they will help them out having a loan in the bank, and you can't really cut the string to your children. So that is in a way.
And then at the same time, in that time, as our grandparents, children and grown-ups work together often.
Yes.
Primary,
Yes.
And the farming or the fishing. I mean, there was work that you did together. Now, what do we do together? I think that's an interesting side of your play.
Yes.
What do parents and children do together?
Yes.
Yesterday, Øystein, we're going to start rounding up. So get your questions ready, because we only have like 10 minutes left. So we'll have time for your questions. Last night, Øystein said that, of course, the theme for this festival is in some way Europe, or the European playwrights, and also the situation in Europe, because the writers write from Europe. So there's immediately a feedback from European reality. And then he said some of these plays are bluntly political, and as we heard Bjørn Birke say yesterday, this is my task, this is what I want it to be. I want it to not only to be a political, but I want it to be a part of a political action, and small part, the action is bigger than the play. And then he also said some of the plays might be more personal. And maybe he pointed to your play as a more personal piece. But I'm not sure. So this is my last question. Is it even a political piece as much as it's personal? Or maybe is it sort of in between personal and political, in this sort of semi-zone, that it's up to us to feel comfortable, uncomfortable, yeah? I'd like that to pass that to the audience too. But Jean-Christophe, what do you think? Is it purely an aesthetic or existential play, or does it have something to say about our political situation?
I would more easily answer to this question if we look to this play regarding to two other plays of FREDRIK, for example, other plays of FREDRIK. When we put together different plays of FREDRIK, which always speaks about the family, we feel, but difficult with just this one for me, to me. But
so say something in general, that's interesting.
When there is different place, it becomes a landscape, and you always the family is the center of this landscape, and you see that the family is not something which is closed, so there is of course no opposition between personal and political things. The family is very open to worldwide phenomena. And for example, there is another play with two young parents who just have a baby, so it's kind of diptych. They are like children, for example. The way they are so it speaks about a kind of a way of being parents today. And what you told is also political, because they are also parents, kind of today's parents. So it speaks about society.
Yeah.
Europe, I don't precisely know, because Europe is a so big thing, full of different. Is it something? I mean, it's so different things. But yeah, political, sociological, and it opens to questions about yes, what is being, why parents are like this. You answer to this question. It's political. It's linked to economical questions. It's more difficult to go away, and this guy, it's an allegory of the difficult, of how it's difficult to go away.
So maybe the answer to getting to know whether your work is political, existential, so on, is just to read more of your plays.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I think it is very true that what Jean-Christophe is saying, and when it comes to politics, it is politics is only important if it can affect the family, because that's where we live our life. And at the very end, the politics will, if you don't do anything about do the right politics, it will come and affect our families. And that is really what we really care about. We care about the people around us, and our friends and our family, and that's why we want to have good politics. And that is also when I write very much about family situations, I always try to have something going on there that could not happen 50 years ago. There is something that describes our time in a way, even though it is set around the kitchen table, perhaps.
I think that's a wonderful place to end. I'd love to sit here and talk, but we have another play to enjoy. Getürk is on the stage in hopefully 5 minutes. And I know Jan will try and get that done. I think there's, both in the sadness and joy of giraffes, in Deportation Cast that we saw yesterday, the family is there. It's very close to the political center, or maybe the center of the political question is in the family. I think that's a very interesting place. Maybe politics is in our living rooms. Okay? Thank you, both of you. Very enjoyable.